Testing, testing. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Dan. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing.
I thought it was something I should know about. Well, congratulations.
Larry, congratulations.
Oh, okay.
What?
Yep. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing.
All right, we are live. We are live. This is the Park and Recreation Committee of Victoria. Our meeting of Monday, March 15th, 2021. It's 6:30 p.m. We're meeting in the new City Council chambers for the very first time. And I'm going to take the liberty of pounding this darn gavel,
There you go.
which I've never wanted to touch before because that's the mayor's item. So anyway, welcome. Our first item is the roll call. And so we're going to do that. John Carlson, present.
Jeanette June, present.
Mary Larson, present.
Larry Schultz, present.
Judy Iverson, present.
All righty.
1 second. We also have Claudio Gopetti on the line. If Claudio
Petty present. I can't figure out how to turn my video on, but I'll keep working at it.
Okay, very good. Good to hear your voice, Claudio. And then we have Brian Vincent, who I think will be joining us shortly. And with Brian joining us, we will have a full membership tonight. And but even without Brian, we have a full quorum.
Chair, Brian Vincent just joined us.
Brian, you want to sign in? Brian?
Yes.
Just wanted to hear your voice.
Oh, okay.
All right. Welcome. So we're full committee tonight. Thanks everybody for being here. Also, we do have some guests with us, and they will be introduced as we go along in the agenda. Next item of business is approval of the minutes from February 17th, 2021. And looking for a motion to approve.
I'd make a motion to approve the minutes of the February 17th, 2021 meeting.
Thank you, Larry. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Mary, thank you. And any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Nay? Motion is approved. The next item is any petitions, proclamations, suggestions, or complaints from citizens, committee members, or staff. With that one item, I would indicate that we're going to hold off on Bavaria Trail because that's going to be our next item. So anything that we might have, it's excluding the Bavaria Trail. I do have one item, and I have a question with that. How many of you received this in the mail? Just recently, okay. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to look it over, but it's our Victoria Park and Recreation Spring and Summer 2021 catalog. I don't know if it's an irony or if it's a hopeful sign that we will have spring. So thank you, Ann, for the timing. But it's a wonderful document. Covers everything from programming and activities from the Victoria Rec Center, community events, youth programs and camps, youth sports, teen programs, family programs, adult programs. And so kudos to you, Ann, and Holly, and the rest of the staff that put this together. Would you like to just make any comments on it?
Sure. So Holly Koppel is our recreation supervisor, and she really is the main force behind all of the recreation programs. And so this is really her baby and deserves all the credit.
But we are planning to offer a lot of different activities this summer, from kids camps to sports camps to adult kayak paddle trips. And so there's a lot of programs out there. So hopefully people will take a look at them and hopefully we'll be running full steam this summer. So.
Yeah, I would just say to all of us, please don't throw those away. Hang on to them because there's a lot there, and we want to have it as a good resource as things happen in the summer that we want to participate in. So anything else? The next item is related to Bavaria Trail. It's old business, item number 5.1. It's a public information meeting on Bavaria Trail and recommended approval of 90% plans and bidding of the project. As a part of that item, we are going to follow the following steps. Ann's going to kind of do an update, overview, and tee it up. And then we have the benefit of Josh Erickson, who's with us. Josh, who's with Bolton and Mink, and she'll turn it over to Josh for a presentation on the work that has been done related to preliminary plans. Upon completion of all that, then we're going to be able to go into public comments. And we do have some people virtually attending who may want to speak. We do have several members of the community who are here to share some comments as well. So with that, Ann?
Thank you, John. So this evening, we're going to talk a little bit about the Bavaria Trail project that you guys are very, very familiar with. We've been working on it for a number of years, roughly since 2017. My time dealing with this project goes back a little bit further than that. Some of the community surveys that were out earlier, probably now 3, 4, 5 years ago, the citizen surveys really put to focus some of these trail gaps that we had through the community, which kind of jump-started the project that you guys had worked on through 2017 all the way through 2019, working on all the trail gaps within the community. The City Council also, in their 2019 and 2020 strategic plan, identified the construction of they hopefully wanted to get 2 trails done in that time period, but with any other project, usually they take a lot more time than 1 to 2 years to get done. So the council directed staff to focus on Bavaria Road, and that was based on some of the criteria that the committee had worked with and ranking of trail gaps throughout the community. It was a long process, but the Bavaria Trail project rose to the top. So just to kind of give a little timeline, after the Park and Rec Committee provided those final rankings in 2019, in 2020, the City Council approved a staff to submit a DNR grant, which we received for about $150,000. Also kind of coinciding with that was the Arboretum Area Transportation Plan. That group also looked not only at roads, but also at trails as pedestrian transportation modes, and also recommended or included within their final plans to include trail along 5, along Bavaria Road, improvements along Rolling Acres, and as part of their public open house, residents responded, and 52% picked the east side and 48% the west of Bavaria Road. So, and I know this group also spent a lot of time debating and trying to criteria to death which side of the road we were going to go on. But in 2020, we moved forward with the east side. Also in 2020, the city approved the hiring of Bolton and Mink as a project manager. So I've been working with Josh Erickson, who is here this evening. He's an engineer for Bolton and Mink and has been the project manager since inception, since we started this. So if there are detailed questions related to trails from that perspective, Josh is here this evening to answer those. So this evening, we wanted to provide the public some information, provide them an opportunity to come to the city with concerns and questions related to the project. But we are now at the point of 90% plans and design, and our goal is to start construction in the fall of this year. And depending upon where those costs come in when we bid the project, either complete it in 2021 or complete it through a 2-year cycle, 2021 and then the spring of 2022. So with that, I will turn it over to Josh to kind of run through the trail project itself and kind of the design and talk about what's included and what's not and what we've done from an engineering perspective.
Yeah, thanks, Ann. And as Ann mentioned, we kind of take a look at basically the east side and looking at that gap that we have starting down on the south end near Alley Lane, and then obviously continuing all the way to the north to Trunk Highway 5, so that'd be the extent of the corridor that we looked at, and kind of what were the obstacles and what were the issues at play. So starting at the south end from Alley Lane up to
Oops.
there.
I was gonna get it to zoom in a little bit.
Kind of focusing on the south, I'd say third of the trail from Alley Lane up to County Road 18 or 82nd Street. That section is going to have an 8-foot boulevard or 6 to 8 foot boulevard, and then a 10-foot trail. And the trail itself will be paved, obviously, but it'll have 2-foot boulevards on each side of the trail, and that continues throughout from all the way from the south to the north. It'll have a connection and a pedestrian crossing there at 82nd, potentially a future crossing to the north when that potentially when the roundabout goes in. That's still a little ways off, but we kind of looked at doing something with that at that point in time. So it'll be an extension of the existing trail with a boulevard so that we can maintain mailboxes in their current location. I think that's important. A lot of trail projects that I work on, we have issues with trying to move mailboxes when we get the trail right up to the back of curb. So we won't have to do that. I kind of started, so we did play around with the boulevard width a little bit. We decided on 6 feet in here because that eliminates some of the tree removals that we were going to have with the 8 foot. So we were able to do that. Like I said, it provides snow storage in that boulevard space, and it also provides for the mailboxes. We think the boulevard's important. We did adjust it down to 6 feet in this location to accommodate a few of the existing conditions that are out there. And then moving north of 82nd, so now this becomes County Road. So we kind of had to work with the County Highway Department in how this was all going to play out. They really want an 8-foot boulevard, so that's what we were able to accomplish by adding curb and gutter. This is a tricky location because we have some ditches in there, some different obstacles to avoid, I guess, for the most part. So in order to keep the footprint more narrow, we had to add the curb and gutter for safety reasons, basically. Otherwise, there's like a 30-foot clear zone. So in order to keep it to an 8-foot boulevard or a little bit less than that, we have to add the curb and gutter. So what's designed north of 82nd Street is going to have, there'll be a 12-foot through lane, an 8-foot shoulder, curb and gutter, and then between 5 and 8 feet of boulevard, then the 10-foot trail, and then basically sloping down to an existing ditch. So the ditches that are out there will be maintained. They'll have to get reshaped a little bit to be able to provide space for the trail, actually a lot. But they're going to actually stay ditches, can still convey the water that's conveying today, and just get reshaped and provide space for the trail. So again, a boulevard between the back of the curb and the trail, a 10-foot wide paved trail. We did narrow the boulevard a little bit and a couple of strategic points to minimize some impact to landscaping and some other things. The driveway approaches will be replaced, and also culverts and the like will need to get replaced as part of the trail going in. And then once you get to 78th Street and continuing to the north, that section currently has curb and gutter. There was kind of a graded flat area for trail when they did that road improvement a number of years ago. So that section it'll be basically 12 feet of paved right behind the curb. It's technically a 10-foot trail with a 2-foot shoulder, paved shoulder through that area. There's a pretty large substantial fence and some other drainage improvements that we would largely impact if we could try to widen the boulevard through there. So just kind of looking at what those impacts are led us to the decision to, I guess, put the trail at the back of curb in this location. And that brings us up to County Road, or to Trunk Highway 5. At Trunk Highway 5, there currently is a pedestrian ramp per se, or landing area, concrete landing area. And the decision was made to, we're just gonna pave up to that and maintain that for now. As Ann mentioned, as part of the Arboretum Transportation Plan, there are some improvements for that intersection planned. And when those intersection improvements are done, they're gonna take a look at the pedestrian facilities and kind of probably realign a couple of things and widen out some of those head ramps. But we'll leave that for that project to be completed. So that'll allow us to not have to worry about push buttons and a number of other things at the intersection that would really drive up the cost of this project. One other item I would point out on the layout here is the crossing there at 78th. That was another one that we looked at. Based on criteria from the county, we would have to have a rapid flashing beacon in that location, which isn't cheap. So that's another one that we were going to look at as a future improvement, something that we could go after some other funding dollars potentially to do down the road. So at this time, we wouldn't put that in, but it would be set up and accommodated for in the future if we would get some dollars to do that. So, yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell the design. Like I said, closing that gap from Alley Lane all the way up to Trunk Highway 5, and maintaining that facility on the east side of the road, where it's currently located, pretty much further to the south. The rest of the corridors on the east side. So, yes, I'd be available for questions or other comments.
One question, Claudio, were you able to get the visual, hopefully?
Yes.
Oh, there you are. We can see you, actually. You're looking good. Okay, great. What we're going to do now is have the public input session. So we'll hold off if we have any questions or comments as committee members. Ann, it indicated there were 90-some letters sent out, I believe, Ann?
Yes, approximately 95 letters.
95 letters sent out?
To residents that lived along the corridor.
Okay. And we do have several people here present, and then I know we have a number who are attending virtually, so welcome to you as well. So our guests are Ron and Kathy Spargo, and I don't know if either one of you or one of both of you want to come up and state your name and address for the record, and then share your comments, and if you have any questions as well. I would note that we are always aware of our time. So what I don't have any idea how long you're intending to go, but at the 5+ minute mark, I'll give you a little signal. But we want to be respectful. You're here, and this is your opportunity, and this is important. So go right ahead.
Josh already answered one of my questions regarding the roundabout and how that is going to be dealt with both now and in the future when the roundabout does go in. When the road was...
Excuse me, for the record, just names and address.
Ron Spargo and my wife Kathy. We are at 8399 Bavaria Road.
Okay, thank you.
Not Hill Point, like the...
Noted.
Didn't know I'd moved. When the road was upgraded from dirt and gravel to the paved road that is there now, the elevation of the road was raised at least a foot, which increased the runoff from the road into my front yard immensely. When we get a good rain, it looks like I have a river going down the side yard. My question for Josh is, with this new impermeable surface and the grading that has to be done, that is going to put even more water into my front yard. How is that to be dealt with?
Well, you are correct that, we're adding the trail through there. But if you think about the area, I guess, that's adjacent to the street or the road, that currently drains back towards your property right now, it's gonna drain the same direction when we're done. We're just adding some pavement or trail through there.
But right now, it's a permeable surface. It's all grass. And it's a gentle slope. Once it's paved, that water is gonna run off of that pavement right into my
Faster,
yard.
right? Yep.
So I would like some details as to how that is going to be managed and what the cross-section of that slope, if you will, might be based on existing grades. Another thing that crossed my mind is that there are 8 residents, I think, on the east side of the road. There's probably 10 times that on the west side of the road. I would like to know, maybe not in the detail that's available, I would like to know why is it that the trail, it was decided to put the trail on the east side versus the west side where the majority of the users are going to originate. And there is already some sections of trail, existing trail, on the west side where there is none on the east side from Alley Lane all the way up to Highway 5. I just don't think that putting it on the east side of the street is a good utilization of funds that will do the most good for the most people. Is there an answer for that? Do we have a rationale for that? The other thing is that if the road, if the trail is built on the east side, the people on the west side of the street are going to have to cross Bavaria Road to get to the trail. That's a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit that most of the time it's 50 to 55 miles an hour. I would not want to have myself or my family or my kids or anybody have to cross that road and dodge traffic. Now, if the speed limit were to be reduced, which is a whole nother can of worms, I know, it would help. But I don't think that's going to happen. Not when any of us are going to see it. But it's a consideration, even with the crosswalk. People still have to cross that busy road. So that's something to think about. The other thing is snow removal. Who's going to remove the snow from that trail? Has that been decided? Typically, who does that? Does our Public Works do that? Is that a county thing? Am I responsible for it? I've already shoveled more snow than I'd like to, so. And Josh, did I see correctly that from Alley Lane north, the trail is going to be 10 feet wide?
Yes,
Why?
you did.
Why is it 10 feet there when it is 8 feet elsewhere?
The width of the trail is basically a function of the grant dollars that we received for this section of the trail. Trails in general for MnDOT standards, 10 foot is the recommended width for trail and 8 foot is the minimum. But because of the funding dollars that we received, we had to make this one 10 feet wide.
Is it going to be 10 feet the whole way?
Yes. Yep.
All right. Will there be curb and gutter installed to the south of where it ends now in front of my house over to where Alley Lane.
Currently, it's not proposed. We have not proposed to add curb and gutter in that
Because there
particular
isn't any there
location.
now.
Correct, correct.
So how's that going to impact your trail? Because
really
your
won't.
cross-sections show curb and gutter the whole way. if I
North
recall.
of, it shows curb and gutter north of 82nd Street.
North, but some of that is still, is already there.
Yeah.
Okay, what I'm asking is from, there's partial curb and gutter in front of my house. There is none from my house, say halfway through my front yard to the south,
Correct.
all the way over to where the curb and gutter started at Hill Point.
Connection there, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Right.
So will that be constructed, or is that going to be a gap in the curb and gutter? And if that's going to be a gap, where's the runoff going to go for that? Is it going to come off the road like it does now, down into my front yard?
Currently, as it's proposed, yeah, the water will drain off this road into the ditch the way it currently does. There's no curb
That
and
ditch
gutter
is my
proposed
front
there.
yard. There is no ditch. It's a nice gentle slope that the city or the county put there when they built the road, and it all flows into and through my front yard. So that's a concern.
We're, I don't know how long you're looking at yet.
I think you're about done.
Yes, dear.
And I will certainly try to answer a couple of those questions, Ron. Can we go back, Alyssa, to map? Thank you. So the first question, we did talk a little bit about water and drainage in the area of your property, and I know that we had that conversation when I met with you out in the field, and it's something that we can continue to look at. One of the things, because it comes off the back of curb and slopes down pretty significantly, one of the things in order to get that back up, it likely might require a retaining wall and could further impact your property. So it's something we can look at and discuss.
I would appreciate getting answers to that.
Yep.
Before we get surprised.
Yep. When we talk about crosswalks, we have an existing crosswalk at 86th Street. We also have another crosswalk at Alley Lane. We're intending to put another crosswalk at 86th Street, or County Road 18. And then we are also evaluating another crosswalk in this location, and we're going to continue to work with the county on that. So yes, I agree with you that, yes, people are going to have to cross the road to get to the trail. We do have a lot of trails throughout the community that require people to cross roads to get to them. When the Park and Rec Committee looked at east-west and made that determination, there were, I think, 5 different criteria points with which we made that evaluation. It was regional connection, local connection, engineering, cost, and I don't know what the 5th one was right off the top of my head, but we used that as a basis and assigned points to every trail gap that we had. And I'm going to go back, if I can, here to this. So this is where we looked at every single trail gap within the community, and all of them are very, very difficult to do. That's why they're not done, because generally they're along county roads, or crossing state highways, that are rural section roads that have ditches. So, and I had Josh do a quick eval of east-west, and from a cost perspective, it was pretty close to both sides, even with the existing pavement that we have on the west side. So was there a right or wrong? I think that the committee struggled and spent a significant amount of time trying to make that decision. And in the end, the east side came to rise up a little bit higher than the west side. I think that eventually both sides are going to have trail on it. It will be certainly when the road is reconstructed and it's upgraded to curb and gutter the entire way. But so that was the reason for why Bavaria East was selected, and we moved forward. The other question was about snow removal. The city removes the snow on those trails and will do so on this one as well. And I think Josh hit on the why 10 feet wide here. And again, that was a function of the trail grant that we were able to obtain through the MnDOT or through the Minnesota DNR project.
Build a bigger trail so you get more money.
The cost difference, we went back and looked because when the cost started coming in initially, the 2 feet of pavement cost really didn't amount to a whole heck of a lot when we, in comparison to the grant dollars. Because if we could have done it cheaper, 8-foot trail minus our grant dollars, and it was the same price, we would have said, fine, we'll go with 8 and take that grant money away. But in the end, the dollar amounts didn't impact the cost, overall cost that much. And so I guess the water issue is the one that we'll regroup and get in touch with you and take a look at that. And I think I answered all of your questions.
As you know, there's a 60-foot section that's just to the south of us that is the part that has no curb.
Yep.
Yep.
The water runs down that and onto more property, so.
We can discuss.
Well, and we, our city engineer, I think she's been involved and certainly can be involved in that as well. Because we certainly do not want to, we think that's an important point you bring up. And I'm not following my rules, instructions from before, but I would comment on the number of residences on each side. It's kind of there's different ways to look at it. By having more residents on the west side, we're impacting more residents like you by having it on the west side.
You have the same right-of-way on either side of the road, though.
No, I'm just saying there are more residents who actually, many more residents that live on the west side of the trail. And unfortunately, trying to satisfy trail connections is a real issue, challenge, and we've taken it on. And it's not because it's easy, it's because it's hard. Because once you put in developments, and the more developments you have, and the more residents you have on a road that really wasn't built in with the trail in mind, the harder it is. Also, besides having many more residents on the trail on the west side, the amount of separation from where the residents' houses are and to where the trail and road will be compared to the east side is no comparison.
But it's the back side of their house, not the front side like it is on the east side.
Again, a lot of complexity in looking at this, but that's just wanted to share with you another perspective on that point of view. Again, what happens when you have developments put in and there isn't proper planning done with the trails in mind that everyone wants, we're having those kinds of difficult issues to deal with. And they're trade-offs. So, but,
Understand, excuse me, that I'm not opposed to the trail. I just don't think that putting the trail, starting the trail, construction on the east side at this point is a good expenditure. It's not a good use for the money that is available. And maybe I'm late to the party here, but it just doesn't make sense to me at this point.
I guess one comment I would have is that I see that trail as a connection from the Lake Minnetonka Trail that goes just north of Highway 5. You can get off that trail, you can get onto this new trail on the east side of Bavaria and go all the way to Chaska, because that trail is on the east side, further than Victoria. So if we did the trail on the west, up on that northern section of Bavaria, people would still have to cross over later to get to that southern section. So I see it more of a thoroughfare to go from the Minnetonka Trail to Chaska down that way, so rather than serving those neighborhoods over there.
Good point.
People online.
what's that?
There's people online waiting.
Yeah, thank you. And Ron and Kathy, thank you for being here, and you're welcome to stay, and I think you might be staying. You're welcome to stay. Now we're going to move on to some of our virtual residents.
Josh, if you have my contact information.
Yes,
Yep,
yep.
we do.
And we'll be in touch.
Call me anytime.
Yep, we can meet out in the field.
Unless it's snowing. Got it. Got it.
And Ron, just one last thing, a shout out to you for your service on the city, because you shared previously before we got online that you were volunteer on multiple committees in years past. So, and 43-year residents, the two of you. So thank you both for.
City Hall was always interesting. Either the roof was leaking or the plumbing was leaking. So you have it pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you both. Alyssa, are you going to give us a hand with managing that process with the virtual?
Absolutely, Chair.
great. Thank you.
So we do have a few callers on the line. What I'm going to do is read your name or whatever phone number or other thing that is displayed on my screen. From there, I'm going to request that you unmute yourself, caller. At that point, if you are dialing in via phone, you're going to hit *6. If you are on the WebEx or on the web participating in the meeting, you can unmute yourself. There should be a mute or an unmute button on the lower half of your screen. So to start us off, I have a caller with the phone number 9522, and then it's *92. I'm going to request for you to unmute. Again, press *6.
And if you could give your name and address, please, as well, for the record.
Thanks, Chair.
And also, you need to, okay, there you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, Daryl Snyder, 8417 Bavaria Road. So I'm right next to Ron, the Spargos there, to the south. I guess I kind of echo what Ron said. My concern would be the where the water is going to go. My front of my house by the road. Again, I do not have curb and gutter for the majority of my front of my yard, and with the trail coming out, I'm going to have a real, it's a pretty severe ditch, I'm guessing, and that water is also probably going to run toward Ron's house, which it does now, so probably adding to his water issues, just the way it goes now. So I guess I would like to be involved in that meeting when they come out to see Ron, but also address, I guess, both of our yards together would make sense to me. So that's where I'd like to be involved in that.
Perfect. Anything else?
I guess a lot to the crosswalk where it goes. I'm straight across from Alley Lane. There's obviously we know Bavaria is very busy, and often coming out of my driveway, I see a lot of near misses. With people trying to cross there, so it's kind of at the crest of the hill, and just how we can keep people safe crossing there from my side to the cross to Alley Lane be a concern of mine too. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl. I'm going to mute you now, and the next caller I have is Paul Farrell. I'm going to unmute you, Paul, or request to unmute you.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
We can.
I'm at 8225 Bavaria Road, and it's Paul Farrell. The only concern I have, and we might be the only one left, but we still have a gravel driveway going out to the street. And I'm just concerned that our vehicle traffic going over a trail with no protection on the edges is going to cause unnecessarily quick damage to the trail. And I'm wondering if there's an engineering solution to that.
We're paving that.
Yeah, I guess the quick answer to that is the trail where it crosses your driveway will be constructed to a driveway section, so it'll be a little bit heavier to accommodate traffic, and then it will be paved out to the street as well.
Will it have like a little bit of a wing that comes, even just 2 feet or so, that comes from the normal trail width away from the street to give a little protection on that side too?
Yeah, the standard radiuses that are put in for driveways would be used.
Okay, that all sounds great to me. Thank you.
Paul, if those 2 items can be addressed, would you have any problems with the trail going through?
To me, it also seems like having the trail on the side of the road where there's more people living makes more sense. Especially with the crossing at Tilia. I know there's not going to be a crosswalk where Tilia meets Bavaria. And that seems, there's a lot of young kids in that neighborhood over there. That seems like without a crosswalk, they're going to cross anyway, and I'm nervous about that. But in general, we support trails just about anywhere that a trail could be put. So no objection beyond the Tilia Lane note, and just hoping that there's a way that we can make sure we don't do any damage to the trail going across it from our gravel driveway.
Thank you, Paul.
All right, next on the list we have user 1. User 1, I'm going to request that you unmute yourself. User 1, again, to unmute yourself, you're going to need to hit the microphone button on the lower portion of your screen.
In the meantime, do we have any others?
We do not, Chair.
Okay. Can we go ahead and have, would like to have that finished out, I guess.
I think we're okay. It might actually be the phone that was called earlier, too.
Okay. If you notice any change in that, Alyssa, please let us know.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Very good. Now we're going to open it up to the entire committee and see if you have questions that you want to bring up to in response to the presentation Josh did, or comments Ann had, or any of the residents had from the public hearing.
This is Jeanette. I'm so used to saying my name because of our Zoom meetings. But number one, I want to say I'm excited that the trail, is going to start. I'm excited about that after much time and effort. So I just want to know that, note that. Number two, I want to be sure that we take into, address the concerns of the people that spoke today about the water in their yards. I mean, that would be a big concern. The other thing that I heard too was still a concern about the traffic with the crosswalks. I don't know if we could ask, because it's a county road, if we can ask that the county police are there more often, more times of day. I know there's a strip in Orono that people have learned, do not speed in this section because it's monitored a lot. And I'm hoping maybe that we could do that along that stretch of Bavaria. And the third thing is the concern about the east versus west. I think the point that Mary made was that instead of just looking at that one little section, east versus west, we looked at the whole picture of all the trail connections and how it made more sense to do the east side so that the connections down to Chaska made more sense. So it wasn't just that section of east versus west, but it was the bigger picture. And I think that seemed to be a plausible explanation that was acceptable to the residents.
Just a note, so the county, and it doesn't really matter because we have, the sheriff is our, police force, so, but from 18 north is county, and from 18 going south is city, so that's the differential, here, so, but yes, that's something, that we can take a look at.
And they do patrol it. I see them sitting along that's my road, and I see them sitting there, so they keep tabs on people.
Yep.
Larry?
So what are the next steps after, if we approve this or recommend approval going forward? What are the next steps?
Yep, so we would then go to city council on Monday to approve the 90% plans and authorize bid. So a lot of these, I'll take the water issue, for example. That's something that we would work with the property owners to try to come up with a solution. And we would do that through the construction drawings, which would be the next step in the process for Josh. And those then construction drawings would be included in the bidding document, so.
Do you see that as a big issue, the water runoff, taking care of that?
I think there's a couple of different solutions. I guess I have in my mind that we can mitigate some of it. But don't get me wrong, some of it is an existing, or a lot of it is an existing condition. That this trail, I would say, is kind of a neutral player in that scenario. So I'd like to run a couple things by them. We'll talk through it and see if they're amicable to it, and then kind of go from there.
You kind of read my mind, Josh, is if there is some drainage issues, while we're not unsympathetic to that, the purpose of our trail is not to exasperate it, but it isn't to necessarily fix something that currently exists. And I think we have to keep that in mind, so.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Claudio.
Or more a comment in regards to crosswalks. I've seen cities that have some fairly heavy traffic where they put say a crossing light that when you're ready to cross the street, you hit the button and some flashing lights come on to alert people that there's a pedestrian coming up in the crosswalk. Is that something that we have considered, or at least could consider going forward, if it's a viable alternative? Not sure, but it kind of got my attention when I was driving on. I don't know where it was. It might have even been on 50th in near Highway 100 in Edina.
Yes. So one of the things that we had looked at was particularly the crossing at 78th Street. Those little light fixtures and push button things are about $150,000 per crossing. So
I'll write you.
one of the things that I'm working on with Kara is some discussions with the county on some additional crosswalks, especially crossings of county roads, County Road 11. So it's something that we are always looking at and trying to navigate how to pay for them and make all those crossings safer. So it's something we'll look at, and the potential exists. I mean, just for an example, if by chance the bid numbers come in low, it's something that we could add in if we needed to. So something we'll certainly look at.
Thank you.
Brian, do you have any comments or questions that you'd like to share at this time?
No, the drainage thing is a concern for me as well, but that's really the only issue I've got right now.
Alrighty. And does everyone else feel like they've had an opportunity? I do have a couple items I'd like to bring up then. And some of them are kind of yes and no questions. And I think I know what the answers are, but I think it's important maybe to have some of these yeses and nos shared for the benefit of all of us, but also for perhaps others who may end up listening in or watching this. Will the trail actually be located on any private property?
No.
Will any trees be removed that are on private property?
No. There will be some tree removal required in a couple locations, but those are in right of way.
How about mailboxes? Okay.
No.
The answer is no. Has the plan been reviewed by our city engineer as well? And has that person identified anything else beyond what we've talked about here?
Preliminarily, yes, she has.
Okay.
And she's been along for the ride through the whole process.
If we did not go forward with the motion that has yet to be made, and if that was not approved, and if we approve that motion, but it's not approved by the city council, will we put in jeopardy the $150,000 grant?
Yes, we will not get it if we don't move forward.
Okay.
The grant is specific to this project.
Okay. There were about 90-some property owners notified and about this. That included residents who were on the west side of Bavaria as well, correct?
Correct.
Did we hear from any of them in opposition to this or giving any comments about wanting it to be on the west side of the road?
No.
Okay. Are there any power line issues?
No. We do, I think, have some in-ground power boxes that we
Yes,
need
there's a few buried private utilities that will need to be relocated to be able to construct the trail, and we're in discussions with those folks.
Will there be any issues negatively for residents, and it was not brought up by any of the residents, by having the construction over two seasons, as it were?
Not that I'm aware of.
What would that look like in terms of
staging?
Yeah, I'm just if I got a driveway, and will I see? Just wonder, what am I driving over if it's between the season?
So one of the things that we will need to do is if the project move forward, a contractor is selected, those are the types of things that we will discuss with the contractor, all the way from staging, parking, traffic control. Those are all items that occur with the contractor after they have been selected. So until that time, I can't say for sure.
Okay.
That will be something that we work out to try to minimize any disruptions or as many possible disruptions as we can with the property owners. So we may do a example. I don't know if this is how it's going to work. We may do one complete section first year, do the second section the next year. We may grade and rock the entire run the first year and then come back and pave. So whatever, we try to be very observant of what the dollars, if there's a cost differential between how we stage it. So more to come on that.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the cost of the project, I know we don't know the actual cost, for sure the cost until we actually bid it out. Is there any reason to believe that the cost is going to be more than what we looked at before? Or any reasons to think it might be less than what we considered before?
I wish that I was a mind reader or a bid reader. I cannot say.
Okay.
I would hope not. And that's when, if it comes back, say, and I'm using numbers, came back at $500,000 more, that would be a decision that the council would have to make before approving that bid.
Okay. Thank you. Well, you've exhausted my comments or questions, that's for sure. Thank you for bearing through that. There is a motion, a recommended motion.
May I have control back, Alyssa, please? Thank you.
Yeah, we need a motion.
Yes, we need, there's the motion, and if someone would read it and make the motion as a part of that.
Okay. I recommend that the city council approve the Bavaria Trail 90% plans and authorize bidding of the project.
I second.
Okay, it's, the motion has been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries 7-0. Thank you. And do want to thank the residents who provided input, because that's helpful. It's not just having the project, but doing it with, in a cooperative manner with residents and their concerns. With that, I lost my pen. It went down the drain of the new system.
It fluctuates.
Excuse me, should have been muted.
We're still negotiating how to.
Josh, you're free to stay, but I have a feeling you may not want to.
I'm gonna take off.
Okay. Thank you for
I would
your
like-
work.
I would like him to stay, but I don't want him to either.
Okay.
There we go.
I know we've done a lot of good partnership work with your company, and so we value that.
Sure, thank you.
Our next item is continuation of a project we're working on, which is the Capital Improvement Program, CIP. And with that, Ann provided us a lot of materials, and I'm going to turn it over to Ann when she's ready to kind of walk us through that.
Sure. So one of the challenges that you guys have taken on this year is the capital improvement program for parks, much like you did the trail gap. So at last meeting, we went through a lot of information, and in trying to make it a little bit easier, we broke it down into 5 categories. So we made it through the new construction and additions. And so today my goal is to try to get it through remodel, acquisitions, remove or demolish, because those categories are not as large as the new construction, nor is it as large as the rehabilitation or repair category. So at the last meeting, just to kind of recap, we had a lot of different projects on them. And so the ones that were added at the meeting are in green. We talked about adding a disc golf. We talked about adding more access to water, more ball fields, and then also an easy way to cross Highway 5. And I guess just for clarification purposes, I'm not sure if it should be in this category or if it should be in the trail category. So I wanted some clarification on that. And then as not certainly a last opportunity, but a chance to, if people had time to think about any additional items from the new construction or additions besides the one that we had on our list, which I can run through them, but I think probably in April or May, we'll have the compiled list of everything included in it. So happy to add some more items to this list and also get clarification on the Highway 5 crossing, because I think that's probably covered in our trail category with the underpass. And Judy, I know it was yours, so thoughts?
I have no, just some way to get across 5 without, whether it's a trail or whatever category it fits in. It just would make sense to be able to have a good either underground access or it'd be very hard to build an up and over.
So we have it added into the trail piece, that underpass in Madeline Creek. So I think that's where it should land, if that's okay. I don't want to duplicate it within the park piece, so, because it is already identified in there. So just
Unless there is objection for anyone, I would say it should be in that trail section where you put it, the trail category as opposed to the park category, unless there's objection, otherwise.
The question I have is, I know and you mentioned by Madeline Creek, that's the one that's associated with the new highway construction, correct?
Correct.
Was the intent to add another one somewhere, or was that one, or is the one that we just listed here one and the same as the Madeline Creek?
I guess I would throw that back to Judy. I do know as part of the Arboretum transportation study that there were additional safe crossings as part of the entire run of Highway 5, whether that was overpass or underpass, that were identified. But I know that they would be down the road.
Do you know what that underpass cost that they're putting in over by the Arboretum on 41, the hole they're drilling underneath the road?
Rough idea from what I understand is about $1 million.
Even if I dig part of the hole myself?
Well, you could always write a check like you wanted to do before, too.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's two underpasses that are at play. Who knows when, et cetera, but one is Madeline Creek area. And then the other one is it down 70?
It might be 78th. I think there was 78th. Yeah.
Get us more on that back across to the.
Yep.
Yeah, I would say either or. I mean, if we have to get it down to choosing one, it would be fine to have it either at 78th under 5 or at Madeline Creek. Madeline Creek, of course, if you know where that is, I mean, so that's pretty far from, I mean, it services that neighborhood. 78th would draw everybody, I mean, a lot more people, make it available to a lot more people.
You know,
The difference is in the Madeline Creek, the people that live on the north side of Highway 5 have no other alternative to get across Highway 5.
Right.
you know, Ann, maybe you can give an update on those 2 underpasses next meeting, since we're going to end up speculating on it ultimately here today.
Yeah, I have one other thing to potentially add to the list. Is there a sledding hill in Victoria, or one someplace nearby, or is it even, I guess we don't have to talk about whether it's feasible or not, but I mean, that's one thing that I think for winter activities that I know a lot of people might enjoy and utilize if there was one.
I see a lot of families out at the sledding hill at Carver Park Reserve, so there is that. And I've seen
Right.
people sled at the elementary school. It's not a very big hill, but
Okay.
I've seen people sled there.
I think people go wherever there's hills. But there is no designated or specific location that we have identified as a sledding hill, but I'm happy to add it to the list.
When you commented on better access to water, what was your comment on that?
That was Claudio. Maybe he can comment.
No, I had to get down.
Yeah, it was just, around the downtown area, if there was a way of getting some boardwalk or, it's anything that would make some of the lakes we have just more readily accessible, visible. I just think would add a lot of charm to the area.
So like the 13 and a half acres, I think you might be referencing, perhaps?
Well, that was part of it. That the question came up at the time if that included some, and then around the bandstand and that. Again, I know it's not just the city's decision, but yeah, that was my thought, and I probably had other thoughts about it too, but I just can't remember them all right now.
I thought it had to do with beach access too. Was that part of your idea, Claudio?
Yeah, I think there some sand. Again, just to make it make water more accessible would add it's almost like a little missing link in Victoria.
Well, I know on our 2040 Comprehensive Strategic Plan, there is, it's a long-term planning document for sure, but it does identify a park, which could be a very substantial park, at
Pearson.
Pearson Lake. Thank you, Ann. With the idea that there could be a beach there for swimming. And now whether that comes to fruition or not, who knows? But that maybe those can be called out separately, perhaps, Ann.
And I have a clarification because I wasn't here last time, but it looked like pickleball courts was referenced under already, so it doesn't need to be under this list? Is that
Correct.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify.
On there, yeah. These are the ones we added.
No, the group said no.
Claudio was here. Claudio played.
So the red are staying in.
So Ann, right now we're looking at anything else that we want to add to new construction or addition.
Right, and right now, the only thing that I'm taking off the trail, the 5 trail piece, and adding sledding hill.
Okay.
And I can clarify more more access to water.
Okay. We may be leaving off the most obvious thing in the world, but it seems like we have a pretty all-exhaustive list here that, would be more than enough. Is there anything you're surprised about that isn't on this list? That other cities have that's sort of a normal fixture? Or a new and growing enterprise type of fixture? Not to put you on the spot.
Yep. A lot of the things that are on the list, I think pretty well cover everything. You know, I think we'll get into it maybe a little bit tonight. We talk about accessibility and diversity within the place systems or within our park system. You know, there are communities that are, you know, doing larger play areas that meet, you know, that larger audience that everybody can play. You know, Field of Dreams is another thing that some communities are doing that are making accessible ball fields. But that's something we can, you know, have a broader conversation about as well. Because that's one of the things that the city council wants this group to look at is, you know, that diversity and accessibility for all parks. Just to digress a little bit, the Metropolitan Council came out with their 2040 plan. They spent a significant amount of time, and they're the regional park planners. You know, with the growing diversity that we have within the metro area, different populations, you know, they really did some outreach to them. You know, and a lot of these groups that may be non-English speaking or are, you know, very new to this country, you know, they don't understand that the parks are free to them to use. You know, there's, you know, concern of safety issues when out in the parks. So I know, and I can certainly bring back some of that information when we meet again. But there was some real good information in it that the Met Council is really trying to try to meet the needs of everyone within the metro area and all of those populations that we serve. So something else to think about.
And with that in mind, actually, I did wonder about our criteria that we have, if we're missing a criteria for accessibility and inclusiveness. It's kind of touched upon to a certain extent. We've got we have safety, public safety, we have, well, it's a benefit of majority of residents. But do we really have, you know, a criteria that speaks to ranking based on exclusivity or accessibility and inclusiveness?
And that's a very good question.
And we're kind of in a working group session here, so I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on that. Or I don't know that we need to be as formal as a motion on that. We could be, but.
I think that when we get to that piece, I think the goal will be to fill out all the different categories, bring back that priority ranking criteria and say, does this really fit what you want to do? Get those down, then proceed into the ranking. So we can, it's certainly something to put back in for discussion when we hit that ranking piece.
And do you know if the Planning Commission is approaching it with that sort of lens?
Yes.
Okay, I like your idea of the rankings. I think that's a smart idea to do it that way.
And do we want to keep moving on here? I don't mean to.
Yep.
You know, you have the remodel and you have an example. We have no projects identified. If we're ready for that.
Yes.
Okay, I was thinking about the recreation center with the question mark. And certainly potentially as it relates to meeting rooms. The recreation center is kind of an obvious key facility we have, and you know, it should not be ignored. It's not a new facility. Things have a shelf life. We have a nice revised city hall, or council chamber. That's the one I could think of. So I wanted to put that out there. Floor is open though on that item on remodel. Also, I guess you do have the Lions Pavilion. Obviously, it's a wonderful facility we've all seen and enjoyed. I don't know if there's back areas of that facility that potentially would need some remodeling. But I do not have any other examples that I could think of.
I know that the Lions Club has, yes, talked about some additional remodel there, or improvements, so that's a good one also to put on the list. The continued.
Are a remodel of the locker rooms already planned at the rec center?
Yes,
Okay. How soon?
hopefully this year.
That's probably the thing in most need at the rec center, for my opinion, so.
Yeah. So to move things along, remodel, going once, going twice. The next item is acquisition, and we do have some items listed. Is there any comments on that, or anything else anyone would like to see added?
Can we see the list, what's already on the list? Is that in your slides at all?
It is not, but
It's future park property at Pearson's Lake and land adjacent to Lions Park. That's what's currently listed.
Thank you.
so you'll have to be the keeper of that information.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Anything else on that you can think of? I'm just going to keep moving because the clock continues to roll.
Was there any, we also have, just a note, which I may add to that as well, we also have acquisition of property for trail purposes, but I don't know if I will put that in, and that could be a topic of whether that should be in the trail fund or in the park fund.
And I did wonder about Pearson's Lake, kind of puts the focus on the lake, which is consistent with the strategic plan. But I think a bigger part of that was that we would have a new big park factoring in the entire future build-out of Victoria, and which would imply at some point some purchase of land for a big park. And that's what's in the strategic plan, if I remember it correctly.
And I think that was located at Pearson's.
Okay, just so that intent doesn't get lost when it says Pearson Lake, but it's.
I can make Pearson Lake Community Park.
Okay.
Who owns the property? I mean, is it multiple owners that own the property there, or several farmers, or developers?
Several.
Okay.
And you could have we're going to have a nice discussion on that, I think, because it's a very strategic issue. For purposes of time, I'm going to keep it moving here.
John, could I throw one more in there real quick? This is
You
Brian.
bet, Brian.
Is there anything we need to consider from a park perspective with Downtown West? I mean, I know there's a chunk of land there, but it is adjacent to Carver Park, obviously. But is there anything we would need to factor in from a park perspective there, a green space, or is that all whoever we end up with the developer, we would ask for consideration there?
I think that's an excellent point and should be added. I don't know what specificity we need to have here.
With just a point of note, in the last, that last rendition, there was some fairly significant green space included in it. and I can certainly bring that back, but I know that it has been identified, not maybe so much as a plaza, but a gathering space be included in the Downtown West plan. But yes, I think that would probably be a good point to add to this as well.
And there probably needs to be some flexibility in mind with it because of what, if there's going to be some housing, significant amount of housing, well, what kind of housing stock is it? If there's senior housing, that can indicate something different perhaps than if it's some young families, or young adults or whatever. So I think there needs to be some flexibility that, could be to meet the residential base in that area, whatever it might be. Not that it would need to be limited to that, because just like our current downtown, this is a total community gathering space as well. But that's an excellent point, Brian. Removal or demolish list.
With the Salters Park, the removal of it, could we just say Salters Park? I don't know if we want to put in there for a parking lot. Remember we had quite a long discussion about possible making that parking and just selling, getting rid of Salters Park.
My question is why don't we have it down as selling it rather than parking?
Isn't that the one that's right off of
Correct.
5 and?
Right, so there was discussion about it being used for downtown parking.
Yeah, I think that's still a viable, if we think there's a need for parking, that's a piece of property that, is possible, or maybe you sell it and apply the money to parking, but I guess once you sell something, it's not our choice to where we take the money and run, but.
Sounds like we may leave it where it is for now.
Yeah, what we didn't know is what it would actually cost to tie into the trail. There's some questions on how you get to the trail and what it would cost.
Don't feel free to all jump in at once here on this one. Does everybody have this document, right?
I think the Kirklocken Park is an interesting idea. That is where I access the trail, so I go through there a lot. But it is very underused space, and it's been neglected for a long time. And the Garden Club has worked on that a little bit to kind of clean it up, along with another resident. But I don't know what the ideas would be to use that, other than maybe some parking for the trailhead.
Okay.
Wouldn't hold that many cars, but I think it's an interesting idea.
And on the red here, it has Lions Park Ice Rink. Does that mean that we would not have an ice rink in the city of Victoria in the future?
No, that's not what I want. I want to go to here. Uh-oh, kidding me. It was up and running. Guess not.
Love it.
So
When that happens.
one of the things that I wanted to would recommend that we take a bigger look at is the entire space within Lions Park itself. Field 5, generally speaking, is underutilized. The ice rink is very small. So I wanted to take a look and see if there were opportunities to actually expand on the ice rink, that we could create a more magnificent, might not be the right word, but a better opportunity or a better place for ice skaters to go. You know, is there an opportunity for pickleball? So kind of doing a quick site plan revisit with Lions Park to include some of those facilities.
And-
That's what that was intended.
Could all that involve looking at the whole idea about a warming house and also buying land that's, you know, that might be there as additional land?
Yeah, to expand the park, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
In the tot lot topic, remove or determine other uses, just was curious about that.
You know, we've talked a lot about tot lots and, you know, the transition of housing and housing people that live within those developments and how it transitions. And a lot of times, all we have is enough space for a playground. And is that the right thing to do throughout the community in some of those little tot lots? So we're dealing with one this year. Swiss Mountain is on our list. It's a very small corner piece that all that sits is a old playground that doesn't really get used. So, you know, I think that we need to look and see if there are other alternatives that can be done, whether, you know, like this year I'll be meeting with some of or getting information out to the residents and, you know, maybe instead of it being a playground, maybe it's a shelter, a picnic area that the residents can gather at versus that playground remodel. So that's the kind of thing that
Makes a lot of sense.
I want to look at as we go through those.
And the tot lot is like we've got at Lake Bridge, correct? Where you've got like playground equipment for the older kids and then some stuff for pretty small kids, correct? Or is tot lot a totally separate deal?
Totally different deal. It's
Okay.
usually about it might be the lot size of some of the homes within town. And we've got just a piece of playground on them.
Okay, gotcha.
Because what you're really talking about is you could say that that's a common small neighborhood common space, and to engage the residents on as a community on the use of that gathering space as opposed to being an automatic pilot.
Right.
Okay.
You know, and your comments reminded me of a conversation that several of the residents in Lake Bridge had, and I've seen it in some other towns, where people were trying to figure out where they could put a sheet of ice just for some ice skating. And there was, you know, some people, I don't even know if anybody ever reached out to you, but, you know, provisions for, you know, being able to flood a parcel of land that turns into an ice skating rink for the community. And I could see 3 or 4 of them maybe in the appropriate place. That's just another thought. I don't know if that's kind of in the refurbishing or reutilization of space when you talked about like the tot slot. Or even on our soccer field, you know, I think the only problem is we don't have water up there. So other than that, it's
You need, generally speaking, you need lights too.
yeah.
And restroom facilities, warming house. So I think that would, at least from my perspective, that probably would go back into new construction or additions, and that's certainly something that I can put back in if the group would like for that discussion.
Skating rink with warming house.
I mean, there were people here that were actually thinking, you know, I don't even know if it's viable if you could put up, if you get partnership with even homeowners associations, although some homeowners typically like to complain more than do. But the idea of, we had a couple of guys build rinks in their backyards. There are people that might even volunteer to just, keep the ice clear. And just a matter of the city to flood it every once in a while. Short of a full-fledged facility, it's kind of just well, I've said enough. I think my idea.
No, and I totally get it. I've had that discussion with a lot of different groups. It's a lot more labor intensive than you would think, than just going and throwing some water out there. They've got to build base. They've got to clean it every day. So and two, with our winters, they tend to be a tiny bit shorter these days. This year probably was the most open that we've had the rink, and if it was 30 days, I'd be surprised. So those are some of the challenges that especially the ice rinks face, unless of course you put in a refrigeration system, and then you can get some additional time out on the ice with them. But they are pretty labor intensive, so that's why we've kind of stuck with one being at Lions Park all these years.
So on your ice rink, are you thinking about the ice rink and then just like a general ice skating area, or would the rink be part? Is the rink the same as a hockey rink, or just a skating rink? Or?
You'd have two. You'd have a hockey rink and then a pleasure rink associated with it.
Okay, that's good.
In our neighborhood, our development, we have this. It's sort of self-driven, where guys want to clear ice, and they'll take care of it. They'll put up lights, and I think there's a real place for that, for neighborhoods to sort of mobilize and take action. I think as a city and staff dealing with residents, there gets the thing where you hate to say no. You don't feel comfortable. But I think as a committee, at least in our role, I think we need to acknowledge there's an important role for us to say no on certain things. And I believe there was one of the developments where we didn't say, no, you can't. It just said that we don't have the city resources to invest with the significant amount of maintenance that can go in with something like that.
I work in office building in Centennial Park in Edina, and it surrounds a lake. The lake was frozen all winter, and ice skaters were out there. It was wonderful to watch them, but every single day early on there was some kind of a contraption that went out there and cleared this huge patch of ice, and it was like a 3-hour project. And then ultimately they have a Zamboni that goes out there and cleans. But every single day they were out there. And then when it got warm here a few weeks ago, it's done. And so it was maybe, like you said, Ann, maybe 6 weeks at most, and a huge investment to do to maintain an ice rink. It's not just a matter of flooding the backyard, I think. Yeah. So if the city took on the responsibility, and then there's liability, then you're talking insurance if somebody gets injured on what's a city park, or a city ice rink. If there's a injury or has to be monitored, somebody has to, if there's disruptions or if there's some kind of an incident. So it's unfortunately it's more than just flooding a space and saying city ice rink.
I think where Ann's trying to direct us is, really taking that area of activity and do a quality job, as opposed to trying to flood the rink, and pardon the pun.
I'm happy. Sorry I brought it up. We spent maybe more time than we needed.
No, that's the purpose of us going through this.
It is.
It helps us to kind of process these things, and that's how we get it done. And I apologize for sticking my nose maybe on some of those things. Sorry about that. Although you did a nice job of commenting on it. Ann, I was sensitive of time. Do we want to move on to rehabilitate and repair, or?
No, we're gonna save that for the next meeting.
Okay.
Because I wanted to get through 3 and I didn't want to have us, get overwhelmed. So we are now moving on. We talked a little bit about it earlier. The city council, like I indicated, supports us taking a look at opportunities within the park system to provide accessibility to everyone. So I just threw a few things together just to get your brains talking. One of the things that challenges with creating an accessible playground, cost and location. We have over the past several years, I'll talk about safety surfacing. We've gone with the wood chip safety surfacing. The federal government declares that it is accessible, but really how accessible is it? But when you look at the cost of the poured in place safety surfacing, excuse me, that's a lot to say, the cost goes up astronomically. So I want to, that's something that I want to, I think that we need to consider and look at as we move forward. We may have smaller play areas, but maybe we provide that greater accessibility component within especially our playground area. Councilmember Black forwarded me this. These could be included within our park designs. Councilmember Gunderson talked about these ninja courses that the teens and the tweens seem to be flocking to. So I think those are some of the things that the council would like us to take a look at as we're going through this process. So again, just to kind of to get your minds going about what the possibilities and potential are as we go through our park projects. So again, kind of a recap. We'll be using April and May to continue to review and start that prioritization process. And then June, July, finalize and make a recommendation to the city council, and then include it into the 2022, 2026 CIP. So that's kind of the goal that I've got for you guys. So it'll be another long process.
Any comment on the ninja? Just curious.
I've never seen it, never heard of
No,
it, so I'm
no.
curious and excited to see it.
Interesting.
That's so popular,
pretty
right, all
wild.
those ninja courses, and my neighbor has a 7-year-old that she had a video on Facebook this week where her son had made it across some rings at gymnastics or something. I mean, it's so big. So I could see kids really getting excited about that.
Do we know where one exists now and what city or any in the?
I'd have to do some checking. This was the first that I'd heard of
Okay.
some interest in
Oh,
it.
good, so I'm not the only one.
Yep.
Good, I'm not so.
Well, if you watch American Ninja Warrior.
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Okay.
But
Wasn't on my radar, but it
most
will
of
be.
them are all indoor, so
Okay.
having an outdoor.
Looks like I would hurt myself.
It may not be my demographic, perhaps, though.
I think that would be a great idea.
What be the demographic group for it? Is it teens or young adults?
Yeah, tweens.
Yeah.
Would that not be nice if you did an indoor one at the rec center?
Yep.
Whoa.
Yep, and a lot of them, there are indoor ones that, it's just a matter of where do you put it? What do you take out? Where do you put it? Put it in the locker rooms?
Well, the way they are now, yeah.
So yeah, that certainly is, one of the things that,
Fremont Lions Park Pavilion and add that to the.
Well, I think Councilmember Gunderson has a initial reaction of 2 thumbs up on this one.
Yeah.
Like it.
And I just want to say thank you for prioritizing our process for the CIP. It's been, a great long planning tool for us to look at, so thank you.
Yes.
Moving on.
So the next item of business, unless anybody has anything else related to that, we, not too long ago, found out that our software system at the Recreation Center will no longer be supported by Microsoft Silverlight. So we have been on a quest for the last couple months to try to figure out a replacement for our software system. It basically runs everything for us. It runs all of our recreation programs, point of sale, registration. It runs the membership at the rec center. It runs all our facilities. So it's a very important piece of equipment. So I know we went out and looked all over the place. We did demos with 4 different companies. Our recommendation is to move forward with the purchase of Civic Rec software. Civic Rec also, not Civic Rec, but Civic Plus runs our website. They also run our HR piece on our website. So we think it'll be a nice fit with some of our existing softwares that we got. They were second lowest out of the 3 quotes that we received. And so our recommendation is to move forward with Civic Rec. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that. We're sad to see Max Galaxy go, but it's going to be very hard not to be supported by any programs. And it'll happen in October, so we are moving as quickly as we can, so.
Looks like you've done all your due diligence. Do they have a good reputation in terms of security protection?
Yes, and customer service, and yeah, we've been pretty happy with this piece of the software. Yeah.
Does someone want to make a motion as it relates to this? The motion's on the screen.
I move that we recommend that the city council approve the purchase of Civic Rec software at a first-year cost of $10,725.28 and a second-year cost of $12,924.90.
Is there a second?
I second.
Any comments? And when would this be in effect?
We would start working with the company, getting the implementation set up, and then probably go live in the fall. Would be our timeframe.
And what's the ongoing cost, you think, Ann? Is it going to be 10,000, 12,000?
It is, so in the third year, it's 7,900, and the second year, it's 81. So it'll go up about 3%, depending upon our sales and revenues. That's what they base it on. So in that 7 to 8 to 9 range over the next couple of years.
And that ACH fee, that's not anything, does that amount to much?
No.
Okay, good enough, I'm done. Thumbs up.
Is that a contract for X number of years?
No, it's basically a 2-year period, and then it rolls over annually, so we can get out of it.
Okay.
If we need to.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay?
Aye.
Okay. Nay? Motion carries unanimously. Very good. Let's see. Ann, in other business, I've included the recreation memberships. I don't know if you want to comment on recreation memberships at all?
Sure, just briefly. So this past month, we have seen a little bit of uptick in memberships and members. And our appointments are still running high. We're fairly full right now. We did, with the pause that the Minnesota Department of Health put on youth sports it was about a week ago, we decided to hold off on that 2-week period of time as well before we increased our capacity. So we'll be looking at this coming Monday at increasing it a little bit more than where we're at now. but not much until we're kind of out of the clear with the, kind of the new variant that's going around, so. But we are still busy and people are still coming in.
Well, and a lot of virtual classes too.
Yes.
So Ann, is the new variant an issue more than just around Carver? I mean, are other cities kind of, are you getting the sense that that's becoming more of an issue, or do you just think it was just a moment in time? Again, you don't have your crystal ball, but
No, I don't. You know, I know that the, Minnesota Department of Health really focused on Carver, and it really had to do, it was really centered around youth sports, youth hockey, and youth basketball. So, I think a lot will depend on what happens with those people if they decide to go elsewhere, if they decide to take a break or not, whether or not that will expand out. So I know right now it was centered only on Carver County.
thank you.
Thank you, Ann. And you have some great news articles, as always. It's really good to stay involved, everything from ongoing Metro pickleball court expansion to Excelsior's revelation that's banned shell. The new structure almost reminded me a little bit of what's at Wasserman, that we have there. And then there's an exciting new fungi that attacks EAB, according to the University of Minnesota. So I don't know what that might mean. I think that's probably an early stage in terms of the future,
But interesting,
yes.
if you're a tree geek.
Any other business for tonight? Ann, is the next meeting on Monday, April 19th?
Correct. We will actually have a new member joining us because this is actually John's last meeting with us. And I wanted to personally say thank you very much, John, for your time and energy that you put into this group over the years. And I'm guessing, I don't know if it'll be this year, there will be a big ceremony for you maybe at the end of the year. I guess we'll see where COVID goes, but.
Right across the street.
Do we have to let him go?
What's that?
Do we have to let you go? Can we not force you to stay?
Well, I'll tell you what, Dawn Wittenberg is the new member, and I think you might want to hold off on that comment till you get a chance to meet Dawn in action. So welcome to Dawn on behalf of the committee. She joins the group starting this coming month and will be at the next meeting.
Correct.
And also congratulations to Mary and Larry for reappointment to the committee. And I would say it's been a pleasure to work with all of you. I mean, I don't know how many groups where you almost just assume everyone is going to be there and participate like you do. I mean, that's not always a given with groups. So you're a great group of people. It's really been fun to work with. And Ann, and I know I speak for all of you, once you get involved working with, whether it's Alyssa or Ann or other staff, you start to peel the onion in terms of realizing how much they do. And how well they do it. So, Ann, it's been a pleasure to work with you and all of us.
Thank you.
So with that, those wonderful comments, can we get a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.